Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It is currently January 19th, 2010, and this is Day 9 Daily number 51. Welcome back, everybody. Oops, let me adjust my webcam here. Sorry, I'm feeling a little frantic today. I only just stepped in the door like 2 seconds ago, man. I was like super duper late from getting back from class, but alas, Day 9 never is late for a cast. I only show up right on time. So, we had a nice little bit of fun yesterday, doing a little bit of 2v2v2v2 BGH analysis action, and today we're going to go back to a little bit more standard stuff, but fortunately I get to do a Zerg vs. Terran again. I've been trying to do less and less Zerg vs. Terrans because there's been just so many in the Pro League that I've ended up doing a lot of those, but still, we have another really good one to do today. I've been doing a pretty good job of balancing things out. And what's nice is that this one's also on an old map, because most of the analysis we've done have been on like Heartbreak Ridge, Match Point, Fighting Spirit, some on Outsider, and it's a great opportunity right now with all the finals coming up with, OSL just happened. I won't say any spoilers on that, but it was awesome. MSL's coming up this weekend. There's a bit of a break in terms of the match count, so you can go back to some of these old matches and just check out some old maps and think about ways to analyze some maps that many of you may not be comfortable or familiar with. So today we're doing Chupung-Ryeong, which is honestly a really hard map. I think it's incredibly difficult. But before I do anything, I just wanted to say that there is going to be an MSL party in San Diego. There's a thread about it on teamliquid.net. All of you should show up to it. I went there last year. It's at Joe's Pizza. You get, like, unlimited pizza if you show up. I mean, I think you have to pay, like, $10 or something, but no big deal. Considering how poorly the American economy is doing, $10 is, like, like 0.008 rupees? Yeah, man, no problem. Doing good in America, because now we're going to transition right over to the main screen. This is, we're doing July versus FirebatHero on, Chupung-Ryeong. I think that's how you pronounce it, but whatever. So, let's just look at the structure of this map. First of all, a very weakly defined center, right? I mean, here's the center, but I mean, you have this invitation to sort of swing up along this little path here or along this path here. So I'm going to first talk about some main points about this, but then I really want to emphasize just how unbelievably hard this map is. So we have a natural right here, and we have this little space back here where we can get tanked or lurkers or any units can really swing by. But then let's just think about if we're at the top right and we've taken these two expansions. Where do I expand next? Look at this expansion. This is the closest one, approximately. But look, if I move like this, I have to move out into the middle of the map, and I have to secure it like this. And really, if I'm taking this expansion, I also need to secure this whole area up here, which partly means that I need to have a good grasp on this position right here. So, I mean, all this movement here makes this a real pain in the ass to take. Consequently, players tend to like to take the top left as their third. It's kind of tucked away in the corner. It's small enough that you can defend it yourself. You pretty much are defending your front choke normally, and then you walk up here and you end up just adding on this choke. And many players actually wall off this little tiny itty bitty entrance right there. But I mean, if you think about it, this third gas is pretty damn hard to take, and the fourth is really hard to take. It's kind of a pain in the ass, actually, to take it at all. In fact, a lot of players like taking these side expansions earlier just because this one's such a bitch to deal with. But one thing that I really should emphasize is that right now I haven't really described any of the matchups. Right? We're doing Zerg vs. Terran today, but that's what sort of makes this map in particular obnoxious, is that while we're trying to defend these expansions, which are really poorly located, look, this place is asking to be dropped right here. Think about these paths right here, right? Again, we're pretending we're in the top right. Our opponent, who's at the bottom left, if he moves up, he can just wander up this thin alleyway, and it's very difficult to prevent him from doing this move. And he gets a high ground advantage. So the aggressor always has the advantage. This is why I actually hate playing Zerg vs. Terran on this map. Like, really hate it. Terrans can just happily waltz along this way. One thing that is nice is, it's kind of a thin map, so you can control drops on it reasonably well. But, I mean, even then, there's so many easy paths for dropships to move in between that it can be really hard to prevent them from unloading Medic Marine to kill off the Scourge or that sort of thing. So Terran really likes the fact that they can do two base openings and just plow forward really hard. A lot of times you'll see Terran players move up to here and actually take this expansion first, sometimes before this one, just because they have such good control over this region. But these are going to be very key. These two positions right here on the map. And I've been analyzing for, 2-3 minutes. Let's go ahead and just dive right into the game right now. I'm going to crank up the volume a little bit. This image is a little bit skewed, so I'm actually capturing a little bit of stuff above and below. So my apologies for the outdated image. So I'm actually going to skip beyond all this stuff. So we see Zerg spawning at the top right. So immediately the question is, where do I send my scouting overlord? Here's a nice little patch right here where I can retreat to. Always when you're thinking about scouting overlords, think about where the overlord will end up that's safe. Because on a lot of maps there isn't this nice little spot by the natural. But on this map there is. And a lot of times, as a Zerg player, you think often just in terms of, is he 2-basing or 1-basing? Is he early expanding or is he going for something else? So often you'll see Zerg players send their overlord to the expansion first, and we see them just making little boxes. One thing that I would definitely recommend, just to talk a little bit about mechanics, I'm going to go down to the Zerg screen, because that is the awesome race, the race I play. When you good thing to get in the habit of is that when players start playing faster and faster and faster and faster, they get really good at just going bam and making a huge box and selecting a giant group. But what you really need to work on after you've gotten that speed where you can make the big box is just making very tiny boxes and very small movements. You should be able to make very, very small boxes extremely quickly. This is particularly important when you have, say, like a rally point. I'm actually going to come to the main screen. When you have like a rally point, you'll have like all your zealots and dragoons and Templar all sort of clumped there. A lot of players, especially Zerg players, they'll hit Control and click on the units. So they'll do Control click the zealots to select 12 zealots and move them away. And then Control click the dragoons to move them away. And then they'll try to like scatter that out. It's actually pretty inefficient to do that. What's ideal is actually to make little tiny boxes and just peel away the edges very, very, very rapidly. That helps so much with big unit control, just to be very comfortable making a little tiny box. And this is excellent practice to do. You just try to practice making it from the minerals to the command center, so like making little boxes here, or from the hatch to the minerals like there. And that's one thing that helped me tremendously. I actually, probably I would say so 2003 was the first year where I could actually hit 300 APM consistently, and probably from 2003 up until like mid-2004, probably 2005, I did not get that it was important to have very small, slight controls. I was just like, I'm a fast player, I will make big, huge, sweeping movements, and of course I ended up sucking a lot of ass. Yeah, that's just a great, great, great skill to practice, making little tiny boxes. Oh, and just one thing to note. Someone's just, we see the barracks being planted here. Most Terran players plant it by the ramp in other maps, because they're like, oh, yeah, why, this is the entrance. I want to be able to move Medic Marine between here quickly. But the thing to note is that on this map, this is where actually all the space is. So it's really nice to just plant a whole bunch of barracks down here for space. And this is a huge, huge, huge number too. Imagine the barracks being planted here, right up here. And by the way, what I'm saying right now is so important in terms of map analysis. This is such a seemingly insignificant thing I'm about to say, but is actually, it'll help you in so many games. It's so important. So if barracks are planted here, Zerg has, we have this big area we have to defend against Mutalisk harass. It's actually a pretty awkward region to end up defending. Zerg can sort of squeeze in the back here. We can get stuff picked off at the barracks a lot of times here. That's actually probably the biggest concern I'd have. But when you're back here, you can actually sort of fill up this area with turrets much more easily. Your Marines have much easier time moving back and forth here. You can end up running back here to defend your own barracks pretty smoothly. I just really, really like the decision to make a lot of structures back there. Very, very important. A lot of Zerg players will also build extra hatcheries there. Protoss players will build a lot of their extra gateways there. And of course, fortunately, nothing too exciting is happening in the Zerg front, allowing me to maintain my emphasis on exactly what we're seeing in front of us. Not sure how I feel about that supply depot placement. I'll let the game play out a little bit more and see if I have any opinion about that. That is important also to think about. How are you going to place your supply depots? First of all, for convenience, because supply depots take up so much space. Jesus. Oh my god, they take up so much space. I mean, I always have this problem, you know, when I'm playing on BGH's Terran. I gotta cut back on the BGH stories. Or do I? Oh man. But yeah, on any map, really. Make sure you have a good placement of the supply depots, not just because they take up a lot of space and you don't want it to get in the way of the other unit-producing structures you'll slowly add on, but also because it cuts off movement paths to make sure, you know, no Mutalisk can get in or around there. It takes up building space, you know. I was kind of questioning that placement, like, does he want to move Marines up there for Mutalisk harass? Does that allow an opportunity for Mutalisk harass? Can he end up building turrets there? And such considerations. And moving forward a little bit with the Marine just to poke stuff around. Very early gas. I don't actually remember the year of this game. Oh, it actually says it right here. This is on the 28th of December, 2008. This is the second set. This is a Pro League match between, I would assume, Samsung and STX. Yeah, this was very, very, very popular, what we're seeing Terran do. More recently... Oh yeah, woo, that guy is just happy as fuck. Alright, so like, what's really popular now as Terran is to get 2 barracks really quickly. But what Terran players were doing for a very long time is... Whoa! Alright, I'm actually... That just completely went weirdo on my stream. I'm going to unmute the chat just to make sure that no lag's ruining everything. Alright, yeah, the lag seems to be good, so no big deal. Fantastic. Yeah, but anyways, so Terran players nowadays really like getting the 2 barracks early on, but this used to be the standard. To get 1 barracks, a very fast gas, which is actually right there, and then to get the academy very quickly, it's over here to the left. And 2 more barracks will be added on pretty quickly. That is pretty siloed. That's how you do this opening. You know, I don't recommend going straight into 2 barracks because the issue is you're kind of low on Marines if you open up with this way. But what's really nice about it is you get the stim very quickly and probably more importantly the range very, very, very quickly. So we're seeing also on the Zerg front right now is a Hydralisk opening. So let's actually stop for a moment and think, why are Hydralisks so good on this map? And by Hydralisks, I really mean Lurkers, because, you know, you're not just going to go for an early Hydra bust in Zerg vs. Terran. So what makes this map so awesome for Lurkers is a number of things. First of all, just straight up tactics. Look at this. I can burrow Lurkers right behind this mineral line and kill stuff off here. Very, very simple sort of analysis. And honestly, there's nothing wrong with that. It's not like, you know, a newbie tactic to think about these little sorts of things. No, it's great. If you can get Lurkers back there, it'll be fantastic. But what's really, really sticking out to me is the fact that there's lots of long, narrow passageways. I mean, imagine if I have 2 Lurkers, let's say burrowed here, just right here, and 2 Lurkers burrowed here. It's really hard for Medic Marine to squeeze up this way or to squeeze up this long, thin way. Probably the most important point I'd want to make about thin valleyways is imagine for a moment if I'm rallying Defilers and Lurkers here. You know, I'm actually going to open up Python on another map because Python just contrasts so sharply with how this map is structured. But I do think it's an important point to make. So I just loaded up Python right here. So imagine, let's say I'm the Zerg at the top and the Terrans at the bottom. So I have my, you know, Medic Marine, my Defilers, my Lurkers and Defilers right here, and I want to get to the Terran Natural. Whether I go around, you know, the left side, the right side, or down the center or something like that, I'm going to have to, you know, I'm going to be slowly working my way forward here, but oh no, Marines, I'm going to throw a swarm up, and he's going to move out to the left and the right. A lot of times he'll swing around and cut off my reinforcements. And then if I want to inch forward, I mean, he is able to do all sorts of movement around me that will slow me down when I'm trying to move forward. He can get in irradiates and all that sort of stuff. I mean, imagine if I get to here and my Defiler's dead. The rest of the Terran units are right here. I'm not getting a Defiler to these Lurkers anytime soon. I mean, that's what makes it really, really difficult to do pushes with Defilers. But if we look at this map, if we instead look at this Sin Chupung-Ryeong, and by the way, I'm going to unmute chat real fast just to check the lag because sometimes it poops out on me. But anyways, if we imagine on this map, let's say I have Lurkers and Defilers right here. right on my big double ramp. So if I go this way and I start pushing and stuff gets killed off, like my defilers get irradiated and they died, it's a very easy path just to add on more defilers, just to walk them down here and to continue pushing along these thin, narrow lanes. That's why on maps like Mercury, defiler pushes ended up being so strong. Even though Mercury is a violently imbalanced map, we never think what's imbalanced or balanced. We only think of what's kick-ass. And it was unbelievably kick-ass on that map. Dude, Klon, that guy who played on Air Force Ace, who just could not win a game to save his life, played brilliantly against Zelos just by going one base straight for Defiler. And he was actually doing a rush for Defiler on one gas. That's how effective it can be. But anyway, so he's going to get these Lurkers. We're seeing July expand to the top left very quickly. He has a dude planted there. Alright, looks like he did kill off the SCV. And we know that he's going for Lurkers, because, we're the observer, we get to see all. Getting the gas, everything looks very standard. Yeah. By the way, this is the Terran build, right? Very fast academy, straight into 3 barracks. Super duper good. Getting the academies, getting the add-ons. But yeah, see, look at this path that July's taking, where he's swinging towards the bottom. He's keeping some stuff on the front as spotters, but this little swing around is so significant. I mean, think of if Lurkers get burrowed right here. Marines are just going to get filed right in there. Good reaction timing by FirebatHero. Strong Terran vs. Zerg player. This is actually when he ended up having most of his success in this matchup, was right during this era. I don't actually remember the results of this game. This just came highly recommended from a few people who posted in the forum thread on Team Liquid for the Day 9 Daily. And of course, Day 9 Daily loves his viewers. And I acquiesced, and now we are watching this great game. And, this is, I suppose, one potential downside to opening up this one barracks and then straight into the academy, is that you're a little bit safer from sort of delayed big Zergling attacks, because you end up getting the Firebats and the medics so quickly. But you can't quite put any pressure on in the mid-game. You can't quite do any sort of really fast bust-out. But, I mean, FirebatHero is doing the right thing. He's moving straight up to his big double bridge entrance right here. Oops. Just to control things a little bit better. Now, one thing to note, what's really going to deal the damage here are the Zerglings. I mean, if the Medic Marines stay still, the Lurkers will do a ton of damage, but most of the time, your player is going to be competent at controlling his units, and it's going to be the Zerglings that actually end up dealing the damage, these sorts of surrounds. Now, notice that alright, we're going to get away from FirebatHero's face. Notice, though, if we look at the mini-map, Zerg's already taken the top left. He's sort of moving in here with his Lurkerling. And now is a very good time to transition right into Mutalisks. Very standard. Look, Zerg just burrowing right up here. If we move too far forward, we run the risk of being surrounded. We're kind of low on units. We know there's going to be bunkers here. Watch the way the July attempts to follow this through. Yeah, making tons of drones, so many drones. Oh yeah, one of the big reasons we end up going Mutalisks in this circumstance is that we're low on larva. So any larva that we choose to make into a unit better be a good bang for the buck unit, right? We don't want to be making a lot of Zerglings with our 3 hatches, because not only will we be hurting our economy, we also will not really get that many, will not really get that big of an army. But Mutalisks and Lurkers are very good to make when you're low on hatchery count. Yeah, see, look at what July does. He's going to work around the back, because this is such a huge threat. Now, let's talk about some planning that we do as a Zerg player. Actually, we're going to watch this, get killed, so that's unfortunate. But let's imagine that we're Zerg, we're playing this map, and we want to do some sort of harassment back here where we get Lurkers burrowed right into this back alley and force him to pull his guys off mining. Well, I'm going to need an Overlord as a spotter here. So I can do one of two things. I can put my first Overlord down like this, and then maybe put my third Overlord to take this extreme right path down like this. I've done that before. Really easy. Timing works out pretty well. Sometimes, you'll send your second Overlord here. I prefer to send my second Overlord out up this way or somewhere where I'm worried cheese will happen. Sometimes I'll send the second Overlord like here or something like that. But yeah, I love sending out a seemingly unimportant Overlord very, very early to a very rarely scouted location just so I can sneak it on in the back. That is like a super critical touch you can put on any sort of opening where you want to be aggressive. It's just to get Overlords in the right place. Because this is really important. Oh, by the way, do you like my shirt? It says Micro Macro because I purchased. Nick didn't actually give this to me. This is my brother's T-shirt store at thehandsomernerd.com. But I actually purchased one. It was my Christmas present. My mom got everyone in the family the handsomernerd.com T-shirts. So all of you should go. They have some really awesome stuff there. Enough plugging for my brother. I'm actually just really happy because it let me not do laundry for another day, and I fucking hate doing laundry. Who wants to clean? Ugh, God, ugh. Anyways, really important point I want to make. Super duper important point. All your overlords as a Zerg player are so useful. I mean, I'm not saying you use your overlords, I'll be very angry with you. You should think of them as these tools, not just these farms you need to build and cluster up. You can make so much use of them. You can spot all sorts of weird, zany stuff. I mean, really, if you're any Zerg players out there and you're struggling, just think to yourself, how could an overlord solve this problem? And that sounds ridiculous. That sounds like a self-help magazine, you know? It's like, what can overlords do for you? But really, so much, you know? I mean, the same logic applies with Terran or Protoss. Let's take Terran, for instance. Leda was incredible whenever he moved out with his mid-game push. He would always bring an SCV and just run it to the right flank, just immediately. If he was moving up, he'd run it to the right, and he would constantly have this SCV just bouncing around his flank, just checking to see if there's any counterattack happening or any surround happening. Very, very, very useful thing to do, and it only takes one SCV. Same logic with Zerg. If you can put overlords there to see it, then you can get tons of benefit out of it. More importantly, if you can put an overlord and you don't see anything, you can also make huge decisions based on that. A lot of benefit can come out of just seeing stuff. Zerg continuing to sort of push the issue. Notice he's leaving some Zerglings at this center area. Not a lot of Zerglings. He's just putting enough Zerglings there such that he can just do a little bit of control with them to help his Lurker stay alive. So now we're thinking, what are some advantages we get with a Lurker opening? Terran's doing everything nice and standard. Zerg is going for a very fast hive. Why would he be doing that? Well, damn it. He went away too quickly. Well, look at the positioning of these Lurkers. These Lurkers have already secured this region. When I get Defilers, if I can start my push from here and go into the Terran base, that's going to be way more effective than if I started from here and then tried to push across the middle and then tried to get into the Terran natural. What's so great about early Lurker openings is that you begin your pushes from closer locations, assuming, of course, that you can end up securing them adequately enough. And see, look, more Lurkers being burrowed, those gas units being produced. Wouldn't be surprised if July ended up skipping Mutalisks right now, but honestly, Lurker straight into Mutalisk is a very strong opening. Nothing wrong with it. I personally prefer Fast Hive just because I don't actually like to have to think during the mid-game. I just want to have Defilers already out in the mid-game. Very fast 2-star port. This a lot of times is typical of a Terran player who's contained. You end up, instead of trying to get some really huge push that will do a lot of damage to your opponent, you're mainly worried from this tech that you've seen about all those gas units, the Defilers, the Lurkers, occasionally the Mutalisks as we're seeing right now. So you end up getting a second starport super quickly so you can get the Mega Dudes, aka Science Vessels. Greetings, Command. Nowhere near as good as my Overlord, which is pretty much like... Dude, man, people love my Overlords. I should really just do like a montage of all the assorted StarCraft sounds. Because you know what? Everyone's repeated those words, man. Everyone's just like, you know, built a Marine and been like, go, go, go. You know, it's just what you do as a big nerd. But anyway, so here's the Mutalisk harass. And this, I definitely remember watching this game live and thinking, man, this is so great that he has all this extra space here to maneuver around in. There's no buildings blocking his way. He can easily get from his main directly to his natural. He doesn't have to walk through his barracks or around it. He has place for turrets. He's in oh-so-good shape. And Mutalisk harass, at this stage in the game, the Mutalisks are less units that are going to do insane amounts of damage and, you know, pick off Marines and tons of idle SCVs. Instead, it sucks money away at a critical time. You know, Terran has to make turrets, or else that'll happen. So generally, your Terran opponent's making turrets. But really, the main reason you're making it is because it gives you a bunch of map control. You can manage any sort of small runaround. These Mutalisks are doing much more damage than they really should, by the way. Yeah, I mean, that's so much damage. I really should have some, like, 2 turrets there, even to back that thing up. But anyways, most of the time, you just don't do that much damage with the Mutalisks. They help you get better map control. They will, and also, they're just a good bang-for-the-buck unit. It's 100, or, let's not think about the minerals and the gas, because we will have enough for it. Think of it in terms of the larva. Should I make Zerglings? No, I mean, we don't really have very much larva. And, you know, a pretty standard run-in to take out a vessel. Would have preferred if a few extra Scourges had not been in there. But yeah, I mean, if we make Zerglings with our larva, we don't really have that strong of an army. If we make more Lurkers with our larva, we end up being a little bit too immobile. Here, with the Mutalisks, we end up just being able to have a unit that does a good amount of damage, takes a good amount of damage, can control a lot of space for us. So instead of Defilers, we in fact see... oh man, look at the Brutal Ensnare catching 3 Marines. The Guardians are what are really doing the damage here, not the Ensnare, for any of you who couldn't very clearly see that. But look at this great little push that we're seeing right now by July. So same thing, same logic behind having the Lurkers here for Defilers, we can use for having Lurkers here for Guardians. If we have our Lurkers here, the slow-ass Guardians can push forward very, very rapidly. They can morph at a very close location and be very safe. I actually didn't like this decision to run the Lurkers all the way up. I prefer to have them back here, floating right under the Guardians, because then it's just like a huge pain in the ass to kill everything off. So right now, let's think about the Terran mindset, right? Obviously, you're a little bummed out. You know, you got some Guardians killing your front. That sucks. But you know your opponent's making a lot of Zerglings right now, and Zerglings really are the only thing that will really end it, right? Just that last little gush forward of units. You can almost always get enough Medic, Marine, and Wraiths off 2 ports to actually kill this off. Oh, is he going to infest? Oh, that's so awesome. Ah. That would have been like the insta-awesome victory. But yeah, you can almost always get enough stuff to hold this off. And if your opponent hasn't been making enough drones and setting up enough infrastructure, you can get in a pretty tense position. This game is actually halfway done. This is a halfway done game. And I cannot tell you how many games I've played where I'm the Zerg in this circumstance. And I'm feeling great. I'm feeling like I got this. I'm just happily making more and more units. I'm like, oh yeah, I got my Defilers. I'm just going to end it. And then I somehow lose my Defilers. And it feels like I lose control of the game. Now, this is one of the big issues July struggles with a lot. Whether he says it or not, I mean, it's something that's a clear theme in his games, where he'll do an attack like this. Look at how beautifully timed this attack was. How aggressive it was, did a ton of damage, he almost infested a command center. But the issue is, right now, all of a sudden Terran's going to have this incredible push. Yeah, I mean, these Guardians are doing a ton of damage, blah, blah, blah. We see Zerg, he's taken his 4th base. And, you know, if you look at this, it's so easy as an observer to go, oh yeah, July's got it in the bag. Look, 4 bases as Zerg against, you know, pretty much 1 base as Terran. This thing only just landed, you know, and Terran almost got his command center infested. LOL, this game's done. But this map is really difficult to control all these areas with. This army here that I actually just skipped past, so we're going to see it, poking around, poking around. This is Zerg's whole army. This is it. This is what Zerg has. I remember seeing this and being like, oh, Jesus, you know? Because if Zerg missteps at all, and if Terran can break away from this, Zerg's, like, dead, like, immediately. Look at this, running around. This is what people do on Python so much that's just so killer and annoying. And we see, you know, some nice little swarms going down, but it's only going to be, like, temporary, really.